And that's just people who were on ventilators. We had COVID patients who were not on ventilators that we had to manage. But during that whole time, I actively worked with coronavirus patients, but did not succumb or come down with coronavirus. And so I'd like to take a moment to share some of the things that I think would be very helpful that you can do in prevention. Things that you don't have to buy, but it really is utilizing your your body and the way God designed your body. God has provided for us in more ways than one. We just we just may not realize it. So I'm going to share some principles along those lines that everyone has right at their disposal and access to help them prevent getting COVID. And if you do happen to get exposed, these same principles you can apply to help you to recover quicker. I'm also as I said, I'm a respiratory therapist and I work in a hospital, but I'm also a breathing specialist and I counsel people on Zoom, just like this, with helping them improve their health through breathing exercises and breathing principles that I'll share with you today. How does that sound so far?
That's okay. Okay.
Okay.
It's really great.
And if you have any questions, feel free, just raise your hand and I'll let you ask your question and I'll try to address it.
Okay.
Because you likely will have some questions, because what I'm going to share with you, oftentimes people are not aware of. People don't know. Even medical healthcare workers typically don't know these concepts that I'm going to share with you, because I had special training with learning how to use your breathing to help and improve your health. Okay. So we all know that the scriptures teach that our bodies are wonderfully made, correct? Right? But oftentimes we don't realize how wonderfully we're made. Our bodies are significantly intelligent because it was made by a significant, intelligent God. But oftentimes we take things for granted. And I'm going to share one principle with you, and you may want to write this down. And that is, most of the times, people breathe through their mouth because it's usually easy. It's usually, if you don't even think about it, most people don't think about how to breathe. But actually, the healthiest breath is really breathing through your nose. And the reason why that is that it's our God-given filter. Your nose is designed to filter the air that you breathe in. Not only does the nose humidify the air, so if the air is too cool, too dry, it will humidify your air, right? If the air is too moist, it will, filter that moisture. Also, the nose, not only does it regulate the temperature, but also filters bacteria, filters viruses, and a lot of gunk and junk. So I share an analogy is like this. Oftentimes people drink filtered water, right? It's a big thing where most people drink bottled water or filtered water. Why? Because we know that impure water, if we drink it, it's not going to be, that water is not conditioned for our consumption, right? It's not going to be the best for us. It can make us sick.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. We know that about water, but oftentimes people don't realize it's just as important about air. Your air, when you breathe through your nose, it's like drinking filtered water. It's breathing in filtered air. So when you breathe through your mouth, it's very, very dangerous because of this reason. Because you're breathing in filtered, unfiltered air, and it causes a great deal of stress on your tonsils. Because your tonsils are part of your immune system, and it does its best if you breathe in toxins, if you breathe in bacteria. That bacteria lands on your tonsils, and it does its best to try to filter, but your tonsils are not designed to filter the air. That's what your nose is designed to do. So your nose helps to condition the air for our consumption. Your mouth conditions food for our digestion. They have two distinct functions, but when you mix the two up, it causes problems. Like, for example, have you ever tried to eat with your nose?
No.
You know, if you happen to get water or anything in your nose, you know very quickly the body rejects it because that's not the way it's designed. So in this, we're living in historic times. People have, in many ways, historically, have never experienced this kind of, health crisis from a very simple standpoint, the respiratory standpoint. You know, this is mainly a respiratory problem. But God, if you really start to understand what I'm sharing with you, God has already equipped us. Your nose is your first line of defense, not your mask. Because wearing a mask, can it provide some protection? Sure. But you can breathe from around your mask. And if your mouth breathing, then you're breathing in that unfiltered and can still get sick. Also, it's very dangerous. Does that make sense? Yeah. Ever thought about that from that point of view? How important the nose is? You ever thought about that?
Not till now.
Yeah, exactly. And so God has already efficiently equipped us and prevented us in really not getting exposed and succumb to this disease if we just focus on nasal breathing, breathing through our nose 100% of the time. Also, your nose, there's components in your lungs that help to enhance your immune system, that help to increase the amount of oxygen that goes into your cells. But when you breathe through your mouth, you're breathing in, breathing out too much. What that's called is carbon dioxide. When we breathe a lot, we breathe off carbon dioxide. But if we breathe through our mouths, we breathe too much and we have an abnormal level of CO2 in our lungs, which is not good. The CO2 in your lungs actually help to increase the amount of oxygen that enters your cells. So when you breathe this way, a healthy form, not only are you able to protect yourself more efficiently, but you're also able to increase and enhance your health, to increase and enhance your immune system, because your immune system will get a lot more oxygen on a cellular level when you breathe lightly, when you breathe softly, and when you breathe nasally. Think about it. The amount of air that can enter into your nose is significantly less than the amount that can enter through your mouth, right? And so that's why God designed the nose the way it is. If we were meant to breathe a tremendous amount of volume, God would have made our nose significantly larger. Wouldn't you think so? Right? We would have humongous nostrils. Now, we may think that's funny, but if everyone were made that way, we would think it's normal. But there's a reason why God did that. Just like in the Bible, there's reasons why he instructs us to worship him in a certain way, because it's in line and there's reasons behind that, right? This is why we don't just make up our own way of worshiping God. Well, the same way that we want to do things in line with God in relation to worship, we also want to use our bodies in line in the way he designed for us to use it. And so nasal breathing, decreased breathing, relaxed breathing is for a much healthier breath and can prevent you from getting COVID. Also, it can help you recover if you do, because it's going to be able to boost your immune system. Any questions so far before I get into the next topic?
None so far.
None so far.
Okay, good. And so typically people will tell you, some people know to breathe in through your nose, but they often tell you to breathe out through your nose. I'm sorry, out through your mouth, right? You ever hear that? Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, right? That's dead wrong. You want to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. And for two reasons. Just like the way people say, oh, you should wear your mask to help protect other people. Well, what did we say that the nose does? It filters toxins, filters viruses. So when you breathe in through your nose, you're protecting yourself. When you breathe out through your nose, who are you also protecting?
The others.
The others, exactly. It's going to filter also the air that's coming from you. This is why nasal breathing not only protects you, but also protects others. But also when you breathe out, the same reason why we don't want to breathe in through your mouth and take a whole huge volume of air, we also, when you breathe out, you don't want to breathe out a whole volume of air. And that's why the nares are small, so that way you breathe out less carbon dioxide. Because that carbon dioxide, most people think it's a waste gas. But when you understand lung physiology, when you understand what goes on a cellular level and study these things out, you realize the very opposite is true. Hold on a second. Yeah, the very opposite is true, is that carbon dioxide has a significant connection between the increase of oxygen that goes into every cell of your body. One other additional point about nasal breathing. Hello, brother. Welcome. One other additional point about nasal breathing, and that is, Ernest, can you just mute the line just for a moment? Or you may, because I'm not quite. Let me see. Can you hear me now?
You're good.
Can you hear me now? Okay, great. So one additional thing that this is very, very fascinating. This next point that I'm going to share with you to help to inspire you and encourage you the importance of the way God has designed our bodies. Your breathing is, and the way you breathe has far more impact on your overall health because of some of the things that I'm sharing with you than anything that you can put in your mouth. It will have a greater impact on your health if you really learn to manage and adjust your breathing more than eating healthy food. It's that powerful. I give you an example. If you were to be without food, how long do you think that you can be without food if you were stranded on an island? Pretty much about a month, right? You can survive, you can last. You know, Gandhi, he fasted voluntarily for about 22 days. So pretty much about a month. But how about water? If you were without water, how long do you think you can last for? About a week, right? So what does that tell you about water? What's more important? Water for one finger or food for two fingers? What do you think is more important? Exactly. We know that intuitively because we're without it. We can only be without it that much shorter. Now think about this. How long can you be without air? 5 minutes, and because I teach CPR, if a person has a cardiac arrest and they stop breathing, within 5 minutes, their cells of their brain start to die permanently. So what does that tell you? What's more important? 1 for food, 2 for water, or 3 for air? What does that tell you that's more important? Absolutely. Far more significant. So this is why, my brothers and sisters, when you really learn to properly breathe, and it has a significant impact on your health. I've seen this not only with myself, because when I treat COVID patients, I mean, when I go to work, I actively treat COVID patients. We're the first ones, we're the first line of defense when managing COVID patients, respiratory therapists. We're with COVID positive, known positive COVID patients most out of every and anyone in the healthcare system. But when I treat my patients, I don't treat them, I have zero fear. I have zero concern. I am able to go into their rooms. I wear my mask, of course, just as, because it's there, but I'm able to go into the rooms and treat them with compassion, concern, and lack of fear, because of the things that I know about how God has equipped us and protected me. I just practice nasal breathing, whether I'm wearing a mask or not, right? The mask offers some protection, but your first line of defense is your nose. And I'm going to tell you now a fact that no mask can do for you. This is why nasal breathing and using God's first line defense is important. There's an element called nitric oxide. Has everyone ever heard of that term? Right? It's nitrogen and oxygen. That's nitric oxide. 2 elements, right? We know oxygen, we know nitrogen, but those are 2 elements that play a part in what we're talking about in our health. It's known to have antiviral properties, nitric oxide. And guess what? We receive into our blood, into our system, when we breathe through our nose. You guessed it, nitric oxide. When we breathe through our nose, it creates nitric oxide, conditioning, not only filters, but also puts into our system nitric oxide that has antiviral properties. Also, nitric oxide helps to dilate your vessels. So we're talking about people who have high blood pressure is because their vessels are too narrow, too strict. When you have nitric oxide, it helps to open up your arteries related to your heart. It helps to decrease your blood pressure. So once again, when we properly breathe, this is why I say breathing has a significant impact not only on our filtering the air, not only on increasing the amount of oxygen, but also provides us an additional component of nitric oxide that helps to have antiviral properties and also helps to lower our blood pressure. Now, when we say that, now when you read that scripture in Psalms 139:14, where it says, we are fearfully and wonderfully made, you can have a deeper appreciation of how true that is, that we truly are fearfully and wonderfully made, and God has given us, equipped us, even beyond our own knowledge. We just need to be obedient in following the design of the way he designed our bodies. Just like we need to be obedient in following his ways and worshiping him, we also want to have this knowledge of using the functions of our body the way he's designed it. And it's only going to enhance just naturally. See, this is not something that you need to buy. It's not a pill that you need to order, you know, or it's not some lotion or potion that you need to put on your skin. But changing your breathing can affect all those things and more. So I just want to give you a little highlight. I want to give you a little focus as to why you want to do these things. And so the takeaway is nasal breathing, also relaxed breathing. When we breathe very, noisy, when our breathing is noisy, that's called hyperventilation. And when you hyperventilate, you breathe off a lot of CO2. And that's going to be negative. That's going to have a negative impact on you, your immune system. And it also, when we breathe this way, it helps to increase stress. Because when you breathe that way, when you breathe through your mouth, you're actually telling your brain there's an emergency. Because that's why we have the ability to breathe through your mouth in a case of an emergency. Right? If you're in the middle of the woods and you come across a wild animal, well, that's the time to breathe through your nose, breathe through your mouth, and haul it out of there. That's the time it's okay during an emergency, because that sends signals to your brain to kick up endorphins, to kick up your adrenaline. But if we are calm and we're hyperventilating, breathing through our mouth, breathing too much, we're giving the wrong signals, and it can actually promote stress. So, didn't want to give you too much today. I just want to introduce you to the importance of these principles and how it can help you to prevent, despite what is going on around you, but also if you become sick, it can help to restore. So I'll leave the rest of the few minutes for any questions that someone may have in light of anything at all related to this subject. You can unmute the line now. And once again, I really appreciate your time, and I'm honored to share this with you, especially for those members in the kingdom, because if anyone that should have this information, it is the kingdom-minded individuals who can benefit from God's love and appreciate his design. Amen?
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for this helpful information.
You're welcome. Do we have, okay, Doris?
What do you call that term when it is your
breathing like that?
Yes, yes. Hyperventilation. Hyperventilation.
So this is
All
not
right.
advisable. This is not advisable when it is just an ordinary or just a.
Correct. It has a negative impact on your health because when we hyperventilate, we're blowing off too much CO2, we're breathing too much, and that will lower the normal level of CO2 that's in our lungs, and that will decrease the amount of oxygen that can be absorbed on a cellular level. Many healthcare workers do not know this concept, do not understand this concept, because they're not taught in school lung physiology. And medical doctors, pulmonologists, I work with pulmonologists, and realize if you ask them about this, they won't know either, because their education is subsidized by the pharmaceutical company, and so their focus is really on medication. That's why they're called medical doctors. But that doesn't mean that they have an understanding of all aspects of one's health. They can only instruct you on, you can't teach what you don't know. And so because their line of understanding is mainly on medication, that's what will be their focus, not on lung physiology. So don't expect that they're going to understand these concepts, but I can assure you, not only will you notice a difference when you make these changes, but people that I work with who have come down with COVID have used these principles to avoid them going to the hospital, and they have gotten better at home. Great question. Go ahead.
How about if some will teach us how to breathe like this, like that. Especially when we exercise, the inhale and exhale.
Wonderful question. Wonderful question.
Yeah.
And here's the answer. You want to learn how to breathe through your nose 100% of the time, even when you exercise. The problem is when people exercise, they say exercise is good for you, but actually that's not true. Exercise can have the potential of being very bad for you if you do not incorporate the principles of your breathing. Many people are physically strong, but their breathing is weak. This is why they are forced to breathe through their mouth, because the level of intensity of exercise is too much, maybe not for their muscles, but it's too much for their breathing. And so they will, and people don't know this, so they'll exercise and push themselves. No, that's not good. What you want to do is you want to, yes, work on the physical, but also be mindful of the level of conditioning of your lungs. If you ignore one and just focus on the other, the net result will be negative, right? And I give you an analogy. It's like, imagine a big, strong person who's, a marathon runner. So you would expect them to be able to jog around the block, no problem, right? I mean, they're a big, strong, athletic marathon runner. But how about if they have a sprained ankle? If they have a sprained ankle, they're not going to be able to run around the block, right?
Yeah.
Even though physically they're able to, but their sprained ankle will prevent them from being able to benefit from that. And if they try to run around the block, say maybe they have a high tolerance to pain, what will happen? Will it be overall good for them, one, or overall bad for them, for two, if they run just around the block, right? We know that it's going to be bad for them. Well, it's the same when it comes to our breathing. If you ignore your breathing, if your breathing is weak and it can't support the level of physical activity that you engage in, you're like that marathon runner with the sprained ankle. You're running around the block, but ignoring your sprained ankle. You want to pay attention to both. You want to do, if your breathing can't support the level of intensity, you want to decrease the level of your intensity so that that exercise can benefit you. And then as your breathing gets stronger, then you can increase the level of intensity. So these are the very things that I train on, and I show people different exercises to build up their respiratory, so that their respiratory system, so that it can support the intensity of the exercise. So then the two are beneficial and not detrimental. And so even during exercise, you should be nasally breathing, because if not, still exercise will cause you to breathe unfiltered air, cause a lot of bacteria to go on your tonsils. And mouth breathing can cause your tonsils to be so dysfunctional that they don't work at all. And unfortunately, many adults, unknowingly, their tonsils are so dysfunctional that it's not helping them because of a lifetime of mouth breathing. Great question. Any others?
Last question.
Go ahead.
How about if there is laboring women? Mostly they suggest us to like that.
Well,
so that case, mouth is always closed, so we always or just
actually when you practice nasal breathing, once again, if a person is giving breath and at that moment, that's not a lifestyle. That's at that moment. If they have to, that's another story. But with training and with an understanding and with awareness, even giving birth, you can focus on nasal breathing. But we're not giving birth, hopefully not every day, every day of the week. It's not a lifestyle giving birth. But actually, when you nasally breathe, usually, and especially incorporate these principles even before getting pregnant, your pregnancy and your labor pains will be less because it has an impact on the level of pain. Your birth will be easier if you practice and have practiced nasal breathing and increased your respiratory system. You will be able to support even that level of intensity much more effectively. You don't want to start when you're about to deliver. These are things that a person wants to incorporate, and their breathing will be that much stronger to be able to support that labor. But like I said, if they do it at a specific moment, it's not going to kill them. We're talking about more of a lifestyle change than something that happens in a short period of time. Great question.
Thank you.
Okay. Everybody else okay? Chrissy? Good?
Okay.
Good.
Well, thank you for allowing me to share this with you. If you welcome me any other time, we can do this again, and we can talk about some things to really maximize your abilities to increase your health. Thank you for the honor. It's truly my pleasure.
By the way, guys, he worked all day today. Now he's here with us tonight. I want you to say thank you for a frontliner who came and spent time with us.
You're
Thank you,
very,
Fred.
very welcome. You're welcome. I send my love to my brethren in the Philippines. Stay healthy.
Sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank
Well,
you.
stay encouraged. Stay encouraged. You also can, you're welcome to join my free Facebook group. I don't know if you guys have Facebook. Do you have Facebook?
Everybody got
Yes, we
Okay.
do.
All right, because on there I do share some articles, some various information that you can get plugged into. And if you go to, you write this down, 123 breath, BREATH, easy, EASY.com. 123 breatheasy.com. You can go there and you can sign up for my free Facebook group and you'll get access to some articles. I also once in a while do a live or put a video up that addresses various, where I talk about the subject matter, right? It is you'll see it is focused on people with sleep apnea, but you will be able to benefit from the information. And and you can also send me some questions until we get together again, if you would like me to, if you'd welcome me back.
Thank you very much.
Definitely.
Right.
Thank you so much.
All right, stay encouraged.
Good